It's 106 BC, and in the recently conquered city of Tolosa in southern Gaul, a Roman general named Quintus Servilius Capo is staring at the single greatest pile of gold any Roman has ever seen. Tons of it. Heaps of sacred silver and gold, hoarded in the temples of a tribe called the Volcae, glittering in the torchlight like the world's most cursed clearance sale. The path is simple. Step 1, load the gold onto the wagons. Step 2, send it to Rome. Step 3, become a legend. It is, as plans go, watertight. No, says Capo, who has a much better idea. Why send all of it to Rome when some of it could fit so comfortably in my own pockets? Yeah, naturally, when Capo rolled into town with an army, his first thought was, this is mine now. He has no idea that he's about to engineer one of the dumbest, most catastrophic heists in the entire history of Rome. Historically Cursed, Part 1. So before we watch this man speedrun the destruction of his own life, let's get a quick history lesson on how all of that gold got there in the first place. The treasure was known as the Aurum Tolosanum, the Gold of Tolosa. And according to the Romans, it wasn't just any gold. Legend held that centuries earlier, a Gallic army had marched all the way to Greece and looted the sacred temple of Delphi, the most holy site in the ancient world. The plundered gold was carried back home and dumped into sacred lakes and shrines as an offering to the gods. All of that meant that the entire hoard was, in the most literal possible sense, stolen temple money, cursed loot. The kind of thing every single myth ever has told you not to touch. And the Romans were deeply superstitious about this kind of thing. To them, Delphi wasn't a tourist trap. It was the belly button of the world, the mouth of the gods. Robbing it was the ancient equivalent of mugging heaven itself. The Gauls who'd originally done it were said to have been struck down by storms, madness, and disease on the march home, their loot soaked in divine wrath. Every Roman who ever heard the tale understood the moral instantly. This gold eats people who take it. So to everybody involved, what Capo did next was less robbery and more an act of cosmic stupidity. A massive coalition of migrating Germanic tribes, the Cimbri and the Teutones, had come pouring down out of the north, and they had a nasty habit of obliterating every Roman army sent to stop them. We're talking entire legions just wiped off the map. Rome was genuinely scared, so they sent Capo, a proud, stubborn aristocrat from one of the oldest noble families in the city, to hold the line in Gaul. Instead, he found this gold, and from that moment, holding the line became a distant second priority. So, Capo loads up the entire hoard and sends it off in a heavily guarded convoy, marching south towards the Roman port of Massilia, where it would eventually be shipped home to the treasury. Except, the gold never arrives. The convoy is ambushed along the way, every guard is killed, and every last ounce of treasure vanishes into thin air. A tragedy, a mystery, an absolute crime against the Roman people. And here's the thing about ancient mysteries. Sometimes the culprit is genuinely unknown. And sometimes the culprit is the one guy who had total control of the route, total control of the guards, and a documented love of putting other people's gold in his own pockets. This one is a real head scratcher. Officially, the gold was stolen by bandits. Bandits who somehow knew the exact route, the exact timing, and the exact strength of the guard. Now, everyone in Rome did the math instantly. Capo had robbed his own convoy and pocketed a national treasure, and the entire city knew it. But knowing it and proving it were two very different things. And Capo was, for right now, untouchable. So he shrugged, he played dumb, and he went back to his actual job of stopping the apocalypse. By 105 BC, the situation in Gaul had become dire. The Cimbri and the Teutones were back, bigger than ever, and Rome had finally scraped together a genuinely enormous army, around 80,000 soldiers. There was just one problem. That army had two commanders, and they hated each other. One was Capo, our gold-hoarding aristocrat. The other was the senior consul for that year, a man named Gnaeus Malleus Maximus, a novo homo or new man, not from an ancient noble family, but self-made and common-born. To Capo, a total snob, taking orders from a man like that was simply unthinkable. So when the two armies met up on the banks of the Rhone River to fight the Germanic horde, Capo moved his entire army to the opposite side of the river, refused to speak to his co-commander, and prayed the barbarians would attack Malleus first. I cannot stress enough that this is happening in front of 120,000 Germanic warriors who wanted everyone dead. The Cimbri could hardly believe their luck. The barbarians, initially suspecting a trap, sent envoys to negotiate, and the two Roman commanders couldn't even agree on how to talk to them. Capo, wanting all of the glory to himself and refusing to let his low-born rival look like the peacemaker, actually ended up attacking first, alone, without coordinating with the main army at all. It went about as well as you might expect. Catastrophic loss. Capo's forces were swarmed and shattered almost immediately, his camp overrun, and the survivors sent fleeing straight back into the second Roman army, now panicking, disorganized, and pinned with its back against the river. The Cimbri and Teutoni simply pressed them against the water and went to work. This event came to be called the Battle of Orazio, and it wasn't really a battle. Even calling it a defeat is underselling it. It was an extermination. The Romans were packed against the river with nowhere to run. Tens of thousands were cut down where they stood. Tens of thousands more drowned trying to swim away in full armor. Ancient sources claim as many as 80,000 soldiers died that day, worse than Cannae, and arguably the single bloodiest day in the entire history of the Roman military. And the psychological blow was almost worse than the body count. I mean, Romans stared down Hannibal and survived. But Orazio struck a nerve because everyone understood it had been completely avoidable. This wasn't a clever enemy or even bad luck. This was two grown men losing a war seemingly on purpose. An entire generation of Roman manhood just gone because two men couldn't share a campsite, and one of them was named Capo. Even the Germanic tribes were so contemptuous of their loot that they destroyed it. They threw the gold and silver into the river as an offering, which means a pile of stolen temple gold once again got dumped into the water by a victorious army. History doesn't always repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme, and it's laughing at Capo specifically. Now, you'd think causing the worst military disaster in Roman history would be the lowest point for this man's career. For Capo, it was merely an appetizer. Back in Rome, the public was out for blood, and someone finally remembered. Wasn't this the same guy who stole the Gold of Tolosa? The man who lost an army was also the man who'd robbed the Republic blind a year earlier? The reckoning was total. Capo was stripped of his proconsular command, the first time in over 3 centuries that a Roman had his imperium revoked by the people. His property was confiscated, he was hauled into court, convicted, and either thrown into prison or driven into miserable exile. Some say he died in disgrace in a foreign city, his body left unburied. But here's the part that turned this from a notable but still fairly normal scandal into a legend. The phrase aurum Tolusanum became an actual Roman proverb, used the way we'd say blood money or a poisoned chalice. Ill-gotten gains that bring nothing but ruin to whoever holds them. Touch the cursed gold, and you and everyone you command will pay for it. And the curse, allegedly, wasn't even done. His family name went on to become one of the unluckiest bloodlines in Rome. His descendants kept dying violent, untimely, dramatic deaths for generations. The legend stuck. Don't take the temple gold. Look at what it did to that guy. As for the gold itself, it was never recovered. No one truly knows whether it's sitting at the bottom of a southern French river, melted down in some forgotten hoard, or buried in a vault that history simply lost the address to. Treasure hunters still go looking, and they never find it. So that's the story of how one impossibly stubborn aristocrat stole a cursed fortune, refused to share command with a man beneath his station, and personally orchestrated the deaths of 80,000 of his own countrymen, all because he wanted the gold and the glory and couldn't stand the thought of anyone else getting either. Quintus Servilius Capo, the man who proved that in Rome, the most dangerous weapon on the battlefield was never the enemy. It was your own commanding officer's ego, and somewhere at the bottom of a river, the gods are still counting their gold.